the world has changed. Easy oil is really finished. The golden age of water, when there was unquestionably enough water for everybody to use for any purpose all the time, it isn't like this anymore. The nexus between water and energy and food, there's a triangle linking these things. And that if they're linked now. They're linked because of population growth. What it means is in the long term, when a company starts looking or a city starts looking at what their future is, and they're planning a new storage dam, or they're planning to use water for a particular purpose, we have to ask whether this is going to leave enough water for other purposes.
The problem is that our governments are organized in a very sectorial way, so we have a different ministry for each one. Our universities are also organized in the same way, so our experts and the decision makers are used to making decisions about these things as if they were not related to each other, but in fact, they very much are.
We depend on each other. If we don't have water, we cannot have food. If we don't have water, we cannot have energy. And if we cannot have energy, we cannot have food either. So we have to work together.
Working with government to draw together all the key data that exists from different scientific reports or from here and there and create a very, very clear fact base for now to the next 2 decades, for example, to 2030, on how much water will be required by the country, what the supply and demand gap might be if things don't change, and then using economic analysis to identify what the levers might be, what the different pieces of the jigsaw are that can enable that supply-demand gap to be decreased.
The role of stakeholders in international decision-making processes has declined over the last 5 years, and it's my hope that Rio Plus 20 will re-establish stakeholders as an important part of the decision-making process. But to do that, the Bonn Conference will play a critical role in showing how that can be done.
I hope it will underscore that the capacity of the environment to meet human needs is not unlimited, and that we will be able to meet more of those human needs if we do it in a coordinated way.
Water is essential for the efficient production and utilization of biomass, the fundamental resource of green growth. Water is essential for sustainable land and soil management without degradation.
If we want to reuse water, or if we want to have clean water, it requires energy. If societies don't have energy, they cannot have clean water. People look at infant mortality in sub-Saharan Africa, which is very high. And you know why it is high? Because the water is not clean. And why is the water not clean? Because they don't have enough energy. Europe, on average, has 120 kilowatt hours per person per day of total primary energy. Sub-Saharan Africa, 10.
Clean, lean, and green. It means that we try to use the least energy possible in the functions that we need to do. There's an enormous energy difference between a city that takes trains to work and ones that get in their own private cars.
The role of water in a green economy is something which is mainly in the hands, as I said earlier, of the farmers, because the farmers handle 90% of the water that we use in economic processes. We use very little in our domestic use and quite a small volume actually in our industrial productive processes.
I'm going to be engaged in a discussion where you have all these brains, experts from all over the world, and who knows, we might come up with some ways, with some better approaches where all are properly managed without really causing a hindrance to the development of another. So I'm here to share my experience from the problematic understanding, but also, and much more, learn from others.
To change government policies so that governments are combining their domestic policies with regard to these various angles in a synergetic way, not to have only the Minister for Agriculture who is dealing with agriculture and not with water. So to have more coordination within the global governance system. So this could be one outcome.
I see an opportunity here that 20 years after Rio, we are beginning to look at economic growth and developmental growth
through the microscope of green economy. And that will helpfully change our mindset, our thinking, and can help reduce poverty.
If this process comes up with a set of recommendations, a set of ideas, or a plan of action which has been scrutinized by a number of different stakeholders and has found to be adequate and useful, it will have a very strong impact on Rio+20.